Good morning. I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America Trading. You are tuned into our podcast entitled The Secret War on Cash. And do we ever have a secret war going on all of our cash, even as we sit or speak here today? I have with me my frequent co-host, Chris Agelastos. Chris, good morning. How are you this morning?
Doing well. A lot better than all these articles we're looking at today.
Tell you what, it's interesting to watch the type of information news that's coming out, especially going into an election season where things tend to kind of be a little more tame, a little
Right.
more watered down. But yet, I don't think there's any stopping it because there's just so much momentum. I don't mean it's to sound pessimistic, but so much momentum to the negative, there's nothing they can do.
Right.
So in fact, getting right into it, this is something that is not a long article, but the reason I wanted to look at this is because, to me, Chris, this speaks to a lot of what we've been discussing over nearly a year now on our podcast here. And what I mean by that is it speaks to how there just seems to be this growing disconnect, and it's getting quite large, between what we're hearing Wall Street tell us is going on in the economy and what is actually going on in the economy.
Right.
And in this particular, we'll start with this one, and the meteor one that speaks to this will be the second article. But it's entitled here: "Housing Starts and Building Permits Plunged to COVID Lows in July."
Yeah.
Now, this is not a good sign for a healthy economy, and there's several factors or reasons that you could attribute to why this is taking place. It is, again, though, however, just yet another symptom of an economy that's sick, an economy that's ill.
Yeah.
With what we're seeing here in housing, and again, how the starts and the building permits have plunged, this is not a good sign, especially when you're talking about, households who are looking to try and get some kind of firm footing, if you will, financially in their household. So is this a sign of the direction things are going to go and continue to go, do you believe? Or is this something that has the opportunity or ability to maybe reverse itself in short order?
Well, I think short term, my opinion, I think we're going to continue down this path. Can we reverse some of this? Yes. Hopefully, I know, there's been lots of talks about maybe rate cuts coming in, September, that could help a little bit. But again, nobody's expecting them to be significant. So it might be steps in the right direction, but the bottom line is you can't argue the numbers, right? They're building less homes. That's what this whole article talks about, is lower housing permits. The only thing on the rise is multifamily, so apartments, and that kind of plays into our next article a little bit as well. People are just struggling to buy homes, and that's the American dream, right? Everybody wants to start a family, buy a home, have a backyard and a swing set for their kids to play on. And, what the numbers are showing us is that that's just not going to be a reality for a lot of people in the next few years here, at least.
Right. Well, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, certainly if we did see, a drop in interest rates, that, could ignite or could, at least create enough of a spark to maybe move that needle the other direction. However, none of these things are mutually exclusive events, meaning what's happening in housing, what's happening in the stock market, what's happening, in our banking system. They're all intertwined, and interrelated. And my point being is that even with a rate cut, you couple that with the unemployment figures being as high as they are and what's happening in our job market, without a good paying job, it makes it very difficult, no matter what rates are, to purchase a home.
Right.
And if that's the case, you're not going to see those starts changing. And that's going into the next article. And this one, really does speak to more to the reality of what we've been dealing with. We've been hearing the government assure us that inflation is in check, that the economy is in check, all these different things. And yet, as we've covered on a few of our podcasts, there's the reality of what's going on, and then there's the what's the word, spoken reality, what they're telling us that are going on, and they're two
Yeah.
different things. And like in this one, you're talking a couple that earns $250,000 a year that they're not able to find a house in their budget. And this, I would say, in large
Yeah.
part is due to rates. But again, it speaks to the fact that at some point there's something's got to give, because it just seems like if it's housing, if it's groceries, if it's the cost of energy, whatever it is, the average American household or family out there is just, again, like we said at the beginning of this podcast, they're at war. I mean, there is a cash on their finances.
Yeah.
There's a war going on in their budget. So tell us a little more about this situation here.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example too of a couple that they each make 6 figures. So added up, and they've got $250K a year in income, which again that's the American dream. That at least was a good income, and still is, obviously, to some extent. But when you figure that's about 20,000 a month, which again is a lot more than the typical household out there. But when you take out taxes, and of course they're in Portland, which is also a higher tax state, saving for your retirement, which we're supposed to do if we ever want to not work, and paying for their health care, that leaves them about $11,000 a month. So that's maybe the first problem right there, is that their income is really cut almost in half just by taking care of taxes, a little bit of retirement savings, and health care, which I think most people would say, those are necessities. We certainly can't get out of the tax part, right?
Sure.
So with that 11,000, they're trying to keep their house payment to about a third of their income, so that they're not completely house poor. So they'd like to find a mortgage around $3,000 or $3,500 a month. They're currently renting for about $2,700, which is a pretty good chunk of money too, to be renting an apartment. And they're raising their kids in this 2-bedroom apartment. But all of the homes that they've been seeing are $5,000 a month or more, which again would be another half of their net income. And so they've been raising the kids for the last 3 years in an apartment, hoping that housing prices may come down a little bit, hoping maybe that interest rates can come down. But the real problem with this, in my opinion, is that they're losing hope. I mean, this is a young couple that has kids. Again, wants the American dream. They are likely, well educated. They have good paying jobs, and they can't buy a home. They can't have a play set for their kids, and they're getting discouraged. And that's where the real fear really comes into play. I think if we have young people that don't see any hope, and don't feel like they're going to be able to have the life that they were promised, that's going to bleed into all kinds of other areas and troubles in our society. And I think this is just kind of the beginning of that. We're going to see a lot more disenfranchised, frustrated, and angry young people that aren't going to, they don't feel like they have the opportunity to build the life that they were promised and that their parents had.
Sure. Well, look, at the end of the day, I believe, and I believe you as well, that we still live in the greatest country in the world. And certainly, the owning a home is a good goal,
Mm-hmm.
a goal, dream, whatever you want to call it, for people to have, but not a right. It's somewhat of a privilege, we'll call it. But that said, I think what this speaks to is, when you're talking, again, people at this income bracket,
Mm-hmm.
very responsible with their finances, meaning they're going in saying, okay, percentage wise, we're going to allocate this much for that, and we just can't make it work right now. To your point, as far as that hope goes,
Mm-hmm.
this I don't know this couple personally, but this couple, from what we've read here, they're doing things right. They're very
Yeah.
responsible. They're doing things in a very planned out, deliberate manner, and even they are not able to do it. And my point being
Mm-hmm.
is that this is probably more of the exception of the average household or average family out there, in terms of
Yeah.
how well they're managing their household finances and whatnot, and even they are struggling. So where does
Yep.
that leave those that are maybe not as organized, or typically or historically would be kind of on the cusp of being able to purchase a home or not? They're out the window altogether at this point. So
Absolutely.
it's a very unfortunate thing, but yet again a very relevant and real thing as it relates to today's marketplace, today's economy.
Hmm.
And yes, hopefully with maybe an administration change, some interest rate change, that is going to certainly help this situation. But as we mentioned a moment ago, this is not a mutually exclusive thing. I mean, there are a lot of other holes in our ship right now that need to be plugged up for everything to get itself right. So,
For sure.
well, Chris, thank you for that. And for those of you tuning in, if you have not already, please contact our office if you'd like to receive a free copy of the report entitled The Secret War. You can do that at 1-800-289-2646, and or visit us online at www.swissamerica.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do so, as we'd love to chat with you more in the future. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Take care.